Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's John Campea, and this is a companion video. Now, what is a companion video? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show from Monday through Friday in the mornings, we take some live questions. However, we often don't have time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in, but I want to make sure those questions get answered in a video, so I gather up those unused questions and we address them here in companion videos. So with that down and out of the way, let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into it. And we're going to get things started today with Anthony R., who writes, I hope the Jedi being renamed Skywalker is just a silly rumor. I can see it now. Senator says, we need a Skywalker Knight for an important mission. Well, I'll tell you what, Anthony, I got to disagree with you a little bit on that. I think the renaming of Force users to Skywalkers makes sense on a number of levels. Remember, they've been talking about the Jedi must go, the Jedi must pass, the Jedi's time's coming to an end, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So kind of a rebranding of what the Jedi are is not a bad idea. Also, it is consistent. Remember, my buddy Kevin told me this, Kevin Rubio, who's worked in Star Wars, mentioned that in the earliest drafts of Star Wars, George Lucas actually they weren't called Jedi. Force users were called Skywalkers. That's what they were called in the, in the earliest drafts of Star Wars. And they eventually kind of changed that, and that's fine that they changed it to Jedi and stuff. That's what we now know. But there's a lot of things that are good consistency there, and I'd be for it. I'd be all for it. Now, you may have nothing to worry about, Anthony, because they may necessarily not do that at all. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that's what they will do, but if they do, I gotta kind of say, Anthony, I think it kind of makes sense. All right, Ben Gundamson writes, with Ultron wanting to destroy all human life, wouldn't he take this rare opportunity from the snap to finish the job if he's still alive somewhere? Well, he's not alive anywhere. We know that. He died at the end of Age of Ultron. But even if he was still alive, it's still the same problem. Remember, he would still have to do something that on a global scale would wipe out Earth. And that doesn't matter if there's 6 billion people on the Earth, or 3 billion people on the Earth, or 20 billion people on the Earth. It was still going to take an extinction level event just to wipe everybody out. Whether it was disease or, crashing, creating his own asteroid that smashes into the Earth, and whatever it was, he would still need to do something that big. But it's all pointless at any rate because Ultron is dead and doesn't exist anymore. Let's see. Stubble McShave writes, put the candle back. Young Frankenstein, one of the great scenes of all time with Gene Wilder. Okay, now put the candle back. Now take the candle out. Whatever you do, do not put the candle back. It's one of the great comedy scenes. Guys, if you haven't seen, I'm glad you've seen Young Frankenstein, Stubble McShave. If you guys haven't seen it, make sure you guys check it out. All right, Anthony R. writes, just like everyone in the world, I had some silly theories going into The Last Jedi. Well, we all did, my friend. Don't beat yourself up over it. I thought / hope that Benicio del Toro was an undercover Jedi, a second in command to Luke, like Mace was to Yoda. Well, I had a lot of hopes for Benicio del Toro too. I didn't necessarily think he was a Jedi per se. And look, I like The Last Jedi. Everybody knows this, but also everybody knows there are parts of it, there are things about it that I did not like. And I really thought the Benicio del Toro character was a waste. I thought it was a complete waste of a character. I didn't like anything. I never got attached to it. I thought it was a waste of having a talent like Benicio del Toro there. Didn't make any sense to me, and I really didn't like it. So, man, I wasn't hoping for him to be a Jedi, but I would have taken it over what they did with it. Look, he didn't even have to be a Jedi. He could have been a hacker, but they could have used him and made a much better character out of him. I got no joy. I got no joy of that character. And it's clearly not Benicio del Toro's fault. It's just that wasn't a character they used right. It wasn't a character that they had. I don't think they thought that character through or thought about how it would come across on screen. So that's one of the things I did not like about that movie. So I'm kind of with you on that, man. All right. K Major writes, could Vision or Ultron wield the gauntlet? We see the stones have an effect on living flesh beings. What about super advanced AI? Yeah. Look, I don't know that there's anything there to completely say it's true and that they can, but I mean, look at the fact that Vision just walks around with a stone in his head. A regular mortal human couldn't do that. Also, as an android, Vision was able to lift Mjolnir, right? A regular creature can't do that. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, K Major. I don't think we have anything to back it up with, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes, I do believe Ultron could put it on. That vision could put it on, but could they control it? I don't know. Maybe you have to be a living being for that. A lot of questions. Roman Bryant writes, similar to you, my earliest memory was my dad taking me to see Spider-Man 2. My love for Spider-Man is your love for Star Wars. It's amazing how a movie can change someone's life. Oh, Roman, absolutely. Because, I have told the story a lot of times. My earliest childhood memory is my mom taking me to see Star Wars when I was a little kid. And I don't have another memory of anything until years later after that. Movies, man, they're shared experiences. They stick with us. I mean, look, it's not an inconsequential thing to mention that my mom taking me to see Star Wars or showing me Star Wars when I was that young, it kind of laid out the direction of my life. It made me fall in love with the movies, certainly with Star Wars, but bigger than Star Wars, it made me fall in love with the movies. And so when I had the opportunity like 15 years ago, or well, it's less than 15 years ago, but when I had the opportunity to do this full time, to talk about movies all the time, I mean, it's a passion of mine. So really lucky, but you're absolutely right, Roman. Those of us who have those experiences are blessed. And I think a lot of us can think back to a great movie-going experience that we shared with somebody. One of the magic things about movies, and I'm completely with you on that, Roman. Thanks so much for sharing that, man. Murray Reich writes, Palpatine, you cannot live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me, crossing the endgame in Star Wars dreams. I mean, I guess in a way, they are similar that way, right? And kind of interchangeable. Wouldn't that be hilarious if JJ and Disney decided to throw that line, the same line that Thanos says in the Endgame trailer, if you have Palpatine say it, you cannot live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me. Good. That would be kind of a kick. Johnny Cash writes, can't Keanu Reeves be cast as Superman? I don't see why you'd want Keanu Reeves as Superman. I mean, anybody can be cast, I suppose. And look, I love Keanu Reeves in certain roles. I get a big kick, and I cannot wait to see John Wick 3. But let's not pretend John Wick is one of the great thespians in Hollywood right now. There are certain roles he fits in beautifully with, but he's not the world's strongest actor. I think he'll be the first one to tell you that. So I don't see him as a Superman at all, to be honest with you. Iggy is Horrible writes, quote, you got some balls on you, pal. Oh, thank you very much, but they're really quite average. That was a solid line. I hate you, Campea, one of two. I got stuck with, oh yeah, because that's Lucifer says that. You got some balls. You go, oh, thank you, but they're really quite average, really. That's right. I got stuck with Lucifer till 4 a.m. I can't believe they got away with all that in basic cable. I know, right? The seasons are up on Netflix. Thanks for the recommendation. Guys, I know I've talked about Lucifer all the time, but if there's still any of you guys that are not checking out Lucifer, oh my God, check out Lucifer. Lucifer is all kinds of fabulous. I love that show. And one of the things that I was constantly amazed by, something that Iggy brings up here, is that I was constantly shocked about what they were getting away with on cable TV. Like, I'm Mr. Bring on the Filthy, but Lucifer is the filthy. I mean, like, Lucifer is constantly having orgies and threesomes and jumping out of bed with 5 other people. And one of the funniest moments I've ever seen on broadcast television, I won't give it away in case you haven't seen it yet, but is a scene that basically recreates, what's the best way to put it? Simulated oral sex. Let's just say that as a part of a gag. And like, I'm watching this stuff. It's on Fox. How is it they are getting away with this on broadcast television? Now we know that it's going to be on Netflix. They're going to push that envelope a little bit. But yeah, man, I'm with you. I was constantly in shock about what they used to get away with on that show. But it is clever. It's wonderful character, brilliantly written dialogue. It's to me, the show is all about the dialogue. The dialogue kills me every time, and I'm glad you got on board with it, Iggy. Okay. We move on now. James Bonner writes, with all the Disney and Star Wars stuff coming up, at this point, I'm thinking it'll be easier for me just to have my paycheck direct deposited to Bob Iger's personal account. Dude, you and me both. I think this has been brought up a couple of times. I might as well just send Disney my personal banking information and just say, withdraw what you need to withdraw at this point, because Disney Plus looks spectacular. Endgame's coming up next week. Isn't that crazy to think about? Endgame is next week. Star Wars Episode 9 is coming. We got Lion King and Toy Story 4 and on and on. Oh, God. Just take my money. Just, you know that meme? Take my money. Just shut up and take my money. That's basically what we're all kind of screaming at them right now. Let's see. DC Patience writes, Falcon and Winter Soldier, mercenaries for S.H.I.E.L.D.? I don't know. Like, see, one of the interesting things here is that while Bucky was probably cleared of, you know, the bombing at United Nations from Captain America Civil War, he's still an international assassin. And by the way, Tony, he's still the guy that killed Tony's parents and put a bullet in Black Widow and has probably assassinated a lot of people over the decades. Can he, and especially he has a history of being mentally controlled for decades and decades and decades. Can you trust him to work for a government agency? I don't know. So I'm going to go out on a limb, DC Patience, and guess no. I think they're going to be sent on missions by Captain America, but who knows? It's certainly possible, but I don't think S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be a part of this new Disney Plus streaming service, so I'm going to go ahead and guess no. I don't think that's what they're going to do, but it's not impossible. Stuart Hood writes, Palpatine influences Snoke to target Kylo in an attempt to bring down the school and to seek revenge on the Skywalkers. Episode 9 title is Families, Leia and Kylo included, Victory over the Emperor and the Sith. There is a lot. I mean, we just talked earlier today on the John Campea Show about, you know, what is Rise of Skywalker, or who is Rise of Skywalker referring to specifically? And the idea that it might be referring to the influence of Snoke, like it was actually Snoke or Palpatine controlling Snoke, or some people are even theorizing that Snoke was a clone body for the Emperor. There are some people now theorizing that Snoke was the Emperor all along. Be that as it may, you're seeing it as the meaning of Rise of Skywalker being towards Leia and Kylo. Not what I think, but then again, I haven't bought into any particular theory yet. I'm still kind of withholding judgment, but that is certainly a possibility. The way you laid out, Stuart, it would fit. I mean, that would fit if that's the way they went. Terrell Weiss writes, your favorite Star Wars movie out of the prequels? Well, I've always said this. I believe the least offensive of the prequels is the final one, Revenge of the Sith. I think the Revenge of the Sith, I think each and every one of the prequels has some redeeming qualities in them. Even Attack of the Clones. But I think Revenge of the Sith had the most redeeming moments. More of them. And definitely some good parts of the movie. So while I don't think any of them are good, I do think the Revenge of the Sith is probably the least offensive of them, so I usually go with Revenge of the Sith on that. Diego Mendez writes, it really is impressive how a 2-minute trailer for Star Wars got us talking for 2.5 hours the other day, and we're still talking about, oh dude, and we're going to be talking for 8 months. We're going to be talking about this for months. And by the way, that 2.5 hour video, we only got about 2/3 of the way through the questions. Robert Meyer Burnett right now is working on the balance of those questions, because I thought you guys would probably want to hear his thoughts on that trailer a little bit more. So he's working on still all the other questions that we didn't get around to during that video. I mean, you're right. It is crazy, and we're going to be talking about it for 8 months more, but you're absolutely right about that, Diego. Daily1611 writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Daily. Or Dali, I should say. After the events of Thor Ragnarok, Thanos attacking the ship and the snap, there can only be like 7 Asgardians left, right? Keep up the great work. Well, I mean, it's funny. Me and my friend were getting into that discussion the other day. How many Asgardians are left? Because not counting who was ever off planet already when the events of Thor Ragnarok happened, you have however many Asgardians were able to get on that ship that left Asgard before it destroyed. Then you figure about half of them got away before Thanos attacked, or as Thanos was attacking. And then half of those survivors probably got dusted. So not many. I'm guessing the total amount of remaining Asgardians is in the hundreds. Honestly, I think that the entire population of Asgard at this point could be numbered in the hundreds. Now, I haven't seen anything official on that, but it can't be that big of a number because there weren't all that many of them on that ship to start with. All right. Pablo Zaniga writes, just became a Patreon. Thanks for all you do. Well, thank you for becoming a Patreon supporter, Pablo. I really appreciate that, man. And I hope you, pardon me, I hope you enjoy the Facebook group that we've got. It's a great collection of members in there. Great movie discussion. Great things get shared in there. Thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter, Pablo. I really appreciate it, man. All right, Orange Hand writes, my bro bleeds Oiler blue and orange. Pray for him, dude. That is nothing. I've got a couple of friends from when I used to live up in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Curtis, I just call him Kurt, but Curtis and Paul, who, I mean, Oilers was life. The Edmonton Oilers was life. I even used to drive to Edmonton from Saskatoon. It was about a 4 or 5 hour drive, I think. I used to drive from Saskatoon to Edmonton because my buddy Curtis would have season's tickets to the Oilers. And so sometimes I would go and join him. Oh my God, all life was about the Oilers. Life was about the Oilers, and they've fallen on some hard times. But dude, listen, as a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, where in my entire lifetime, the Maple Leafs have never even made it to the Stanley Cup Finals, you got nothing to cry about. You got nothing to cry about. There are banners hanging from your rafters in our lifetime. But as me as a suffering Leafs fan, it's pretty hard. But they are going through some rough stuff right now. Gary Allegra writes, just to appreciate you guys and all you do, Ashley's the real MVP. Hashtag give her a raise. Oh, don't worry about Ashley. And by the way, I always talk about this, but it's true. I don't count on Ashley being around for very long. I mean, Ashley is... she has a career. She is a working model, a working actress. She's getting engaged. You know, she misses a number of shows because she's got stuff. I don't anticipate she's going to be around for long because I just see her getting bigger and bigger. I see her getting more and more successful. So appreciate Ashley while she's here, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Brad Brickley writes, Game of Thrones, great setup. Get your hankies for next week. Oh, I thought that this Game of Thrones episode was wonderful. I thought it was wonderful. Not everything needs to be swords, dragons, ching, clang, clang. You know, it doesn't have to. This was about character drama, and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. Zoltar MMO writes, tell Cody America Pie's not a rom-com. I don't know. I think he's got a point. Because I'll agree, Zoltar, that when I think of America Pie, now he's talking about Olympic gold medalist Cody Miller, who does Best Movie, Worst Movie with me and Robert. And he was talking about American Pie as a rom-com. And you know what? When I think of American Pie, I don't instantly think rom-com. But the more he talked about it, I started realizing, you know what? You got a point. I think you can't, look, I don't think you'd be wrong not to list it as a rom-com. But I think he made enough valid points, and I don't think you're wrong to think of it as a rom-com either. So I'm actually going to side with him on this one, Zoltar. I'm actually going to side with him on this one. All right. Click My Vid writes, which they had a Mormont reunion, Liana and Jorah. Dude. Poor Jorah. By the way, did you guys see the news the other day? We talked about on the John Campea Show. Jorah the Explorer, he's going to be Bruce Wayne / Batman in Titan Season 2. Now, he's not going to be in a whole ton of it. He's probably only going to be in 2 or 3 episodes, but still, I thought that was a pretty interesting choice with him. Okay. Sean Anthony writes, sitting here on my day off with beer, loving the content. Oh, thanks so much, Sean. You guys really are great and are creating something special with this channel. Shout out to the chat. Much love for Ottawa. Take care. I love Ottawa. I used to spend a lot of time up in the Ottawa area, especially around the Rideau Lakes, like the Big Rideau, Little Rideau. I used to spend a lot of time up there. I love the area. Kingston's a beautiful town. I really like that area. So thank you so much for that, Sean. I really appreciate that, man. All right. Matt Phillips Reviews writes, I think whoever sits on the throne at the end will do so reluctantly because they are the only ones left alive. Dany's arc is not going to end happily. Oh, I agree. I don't think Daenerys' storyline is... I do not think this ends with her on the throne. I think there's some heartache, some hardship, and some trials and tribulations coming for Daenerys at this point. Now, everybody knows I don't like Daenerys, but I love her in the show. She's one of those characters that I'm loving to hate because I think she's a jerk. She's a good guy. Like, out of bad guys and good guys, she's a good guy, but she's also a jerk. She's really let this whole being queen thing go to her head, and she tries to lord it over people. Whereas you take a Jon Snow, you know, Jon Snow is about... he doesn't care about the crown. He's never about the crown. He's about protecting his people. That's a king. Anyway, that's what it is to me. But I think you're right, Matt. Okay, Jason Doolin writes, Game of Thrones is dead boy art, same as body part art from episode 1. I don't know. I don't, like, episode 1 was 8 years ago. I don't really remember a lot about episode 1. So I'm not sure, but I heard somebody else mention that, Jason, so you're not alone in that. Probably a quick Google search will bring that up for you. And somebody in the comments section, let me know if you think Jason's right on that, because I don't remember, but I think a quick Google search will probably bring that up. Jared Howe writes, favorite movie ending? Mine is Unbreakable. Yeah, Unbreakable's ending's pretty good. I mean, probably the original Star Wars. The original Star Wars has got to be the greatest ending of all time, with the Death Star blowing up and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I'm going to go the original Star Wars, my favorite ending of all time. Alan Gonzalez writes, maybe the Emperor is a Skywalker. Well, I think you never know. I mean, there was a family of Skywalkers that had nothing to do with it. I mean, you had Shmi Skywalker, so I mean, there were Skywalker. Maybe Palpatine was a Skywalker. Highly unlikely, and I know you're joking, but I guess anything's possible. Okay, Jamie 10 writes, no free 3-hour parking for Avengers Endgame, hashtag whatever it takes. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, because one of the popular theaters in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is a big place, but is the AMC Century City. It's a big popular theater. Now, it's all the way on the West End. It's like, it takes me an hour to get there, so I don't go there very often. But it's a part of this big mall, and it's right by the Fox lot. It's like right just a block over from the Fox lot. Anyway, so it's connected in a part of this big shopping center. And I think you get 3 hours for free parking. But that clearly ain't going to work for Avengers Endgame. So yeah, I guess parking becomes another consideration for that entire discussion, Jamie. All right, Roman Bryan writes, will Endgame make $1 billion domestically? I doubt it. The last Avengers Infinity War, remember, Avengers Infinity War didn't even make 700 million. Avengers Infinity War was one of the biggest domestic smash hits of all time. Let me just go to Box Office Mojo here for a second. It made high 600 millions. Let me go to all time here. All time domestic. Okay. Avengers Infinity War is the 4th biggest domestic grossing film of all time at $678 million. That is miles away from $1 billion domestic. Miles away. So no, I don't see how that's even remotely possible. You're talking about needing to make over $300 million more just domestically than Infinity War did? I don't know. Now, the number one all-time domestic box office film is Star Wars: The Force Awakens, that made $936 million. So that came kind of close. That was still about $64 million away from making $1 billion. So it came kind of close. But yeah, Avengers: Infinity War, which I think it'll be higher than Infinity War, but I also think it'll be close to Infinity War, only made the 4th highest domestic grossing film of all time, $678 million. So no, I don't see it getting to $1 billion. Tim Leaney writes, is the 1 out of 14,605 possibilities that Doctor Strange saw the same odds that Happy has of actually getting with Aunt May? Hey, Hap, that's actually some pretty good odds. I would lay some, I would give, I'll tell you straight up, I think by the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, I bet you Hap has a date with Aunt May. I'm willing to put $5 on that. I mean, not literally, but theoretically speaking, I'm willing to put $5. I think by the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, I believe Hap is going to have a date with Aunt May. Damn it! All right, movies with Aaron writes, Hawkeye show a prequel or the Ronin storyline? I think neither, but it's not going to be a prequel. I believe it is going to be a sequel that takes place after the events of Endgame. That's what I believe. Cries Fitch writes, in my opinion, the trailer for episode 4 explains the title. Every generation has a legend. I think you probably meant episode 9. Every generation has a legend. The rise of Skywalker is the rise of the legend of Luke Skywalker. That's possible, especially if it ties into that other theory we were talking about, where Skywalker becomes the new moniker for Force users. The legend of Luke Skywalker grows through this new breed of Force users who've taken on the name the Skywalkers. That's a total possibility. So that ranks up there as one of the very conceivable ways of looking at it, Cries. So let's keep our eye on that. All right. Nick writes, With all due respect to Titanic, the reason we're talking about Endgame runtime is because we already knew how Titanic ended. No, that's irrelevant, because that makes no difference whether Titanic was 5 minutes long or 5 hours long. Of course, we know how Titanic ends, but we all know how Endgame ends. We don't know how it gets there. We don't know in what form or shape it's going to take, but we know what the end of Endgame is. Everything gets set right. We don't know whether that's from a change in reality altering, whether it's a change in time travel, or whether it's a change from an unsnapping, but we know what the ultimate end is. Everything gets set right. We know that. We know that because Spider-Man Far From Home is coming out 2 months later. Black Panther 2 is already in development. Doctor Strange 2 is probably coming out in 2020. Black Widow's got her... I mean, these are all characters other than Black Widow who were dusted. So we know. I can tell you right now, the ending of this movie is everything gets set right. There it is. That's the ending. The effects of the snapping, everything gets set right. I don't know how they set it right, but that's the ending. Yeah, everybody went into Titanic knowing the ship sinks, but the movie ultimately wasn't about the ship sinking. The ship sinking in a sinking boat was the background to the story that was about Jack and whatever selfish girl was who wouldn't make room for him on the floating door. So I disagree with you, Nick. I disagree with you. I don't think that's part of the rational reasoning whatsoever. And again, that's the very ending of the movie. So that doesn't make sense whether it doesn't matter if the movie was 1 hour long or 5 hours long. You're talking about the very ending of it, so it's not the same thing. And if nobody cared about Titanic, then it wouldn't be the second highest grossing movie of all time, right? Regardless of whether we knew what the ending was. And so again, we know what the ending of Endgame is. We just don't know how they get there. All right, DC Patience writes, Endgame bladder strategy. If you can't hold it, book multiple showings and go potty at different times each viewing during the first or second act. Brilliant idea, because we've all got multiple showings lined up, don't we? Let's be honest, most of us, most of us already have multiple showings lined up. So that might be a theory that works for us, DC. All right, Tommy Woodward writes, over under 1%, Simon from Love, Simon beats Thanos. He talks him down with his inspirational story. By the way, was it Disney Plus or was it one of the other streaming services that just announced the other day that they're going to do a Love, Simon streaming show? Honestly, Love, Simon was a surprisingly heartwarming, character-driven, just a nice little movie. I was really shocked. I was surprised by it. It's a nice little movie. You guys haven't had a chance to check out Love, Simon, check that out. All right. Trail Shredder Juan Malagon writes, the Avengers are going to the quantum realm, or into the quantum realm, to save like Skywalker. Then Luke chops Thanos' arm off, and that's how we win. Well, I mean, it all comes down to, what is it, Patton Oswalt? Patton Oswalt's big epic. If you haven't seen Patton Oswalt big epic MCU Star Wars crossover pitch, go on YouTube and look up Patton Oswalt Star Wars Marvel crossover and watch his epic layout of his vision for crossing over the MCU and Star Wars. It's hilarious. So clearly that's not going to happen. But man, if you haven't seen that, you certainly need to go and watch that, because it will just leave you in stitches. It's absolutely wonderful. All right. Ra Palacio writes, I said it last year, I'll say it again. I want to see Spider-Man, when he gets back, use insta-kill mode on Thanos. I have a thought, though. I have a suspicion that insta-kill was not made for Galactic Titans. Insta-kill is made for Billy the bank robber that could do insta-kill. I don't know that the Spider-Man suit insta-kill is going to do much to Thanos, to be honest with you. But it would be funny if at some point Peter goes, all right, enough of this, engage instant kill, and then tries to use whatever that does. Again, I don't think it's going to do much to Thanos, but it would be kind of funny if we see him do that. The Rosenblums 2x2 writes, met you with the twins in Atlanta. I will always remember that. I'll always remember those two little girls, man. God, they got to be getting big now. So I was in Atlanta for the AMC Big Leadership Conference. That's where I did the keynote speech there. I talked about that the other day. And we did a meet and greet and this great family with these two twin little girls who were like the most adorable little girls, climbed on me like a jungle gym at the park or something, and I took some photos with them. They were great. I remember your daughters so well. They were just adorable, man. And I met you at the twins in Atlanta. You had another set of twins. Oh my God. I tip my hat to you, sir. Anyways, Ming to LA. You probably mean moving to LA. Over under 50% that you have a Star Wars You have a Star Wars my and greet. You probably meant meet and greet. LOL. Recovery for premiere. Keep it filthy, Nick. You know what's funny? And you know, I'm not sick. Why am I'm coughing a lot this episode. I don't know. I'm not sick. I'm not feeling sick. Maybe it's because maybe it's just my throat being kind of rough shape. Anyway, I've had a number of people asking me more recently about setting up a Los Angeles meet and greet. So I think I'm going to do it. I think I'll do it later in the year. And maybe I will do it surrounding the Star Wars debut just before I hop on a plane and go to Canada for Christmas. So maybe in like November or something like that, I'll set up November, December. I'll set up a meet and greet. Who knows? Maybe I'll even tie it into Star Wars or something like that. I don't know. But I think I'll set something like that up, man. So anyway, enjoy your move. I hope you have a painless move to Los Angeles. And man, 2 sets of twins, dude. That's amazing. Anyway, have a great day, man. All right. Let's move on here. Michael Bradley writes, hello, John. How does a final endgame super chat? Everyone can send it in secret. Then they are revealed after it comes out. Oh, so I'm not quite sure if I'm reading it right. Hello, John. How does a final endgame super chat? Everyone can send in a secret. So it sounds like what you're saying is we should set up where everybody sends in a super chat message about what they think is going to happen in Endgame. Then I just don't read them. I put them away. And then after Endgame comes out, I read them. We do a video where we read them out loud. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea, Michael. You know what? I'm going to talk to Rob about that. I may actually do that. That sounds actually pretty slick. That's a great... What do you guys think? I think that sounds like a great idea. Anyway. Okay, Daniel Rodriguez writes... like Dumbledore army in Harry Potter, it be Skywalker army. Are you talking about what the Skywalkers refer to? Yeah, I'm not buying into the theory, but I think it's one of the more plausible ones. I really do. That these Force users will be called Skywalkers. Again, I'm not saying that's what I definitely think is going to happen, but it is one of the more plausible ones, I think. Koa1708 writes, do you think golf is a sport or is it like baseball? I think it's a game. A very difficult, skill-requiring game, but I don't believe you need to be an athlete to play golf. So, and I think anything you designate as a sport has to be something you got to be an athlete to do. So I consider it to be a very challenging, way beyond me game, but I consider golf a game. Joseph Ziegler writes... By the way, see Tiger win the Masters again? Unbelievable. Joseph writes, my 2 cents on Star Wars. They lost me when Luke, the guy who had faith in his father and wouldn't turn to the dark side, thought the best course of action was to execute a then innocent Kylo. I'll tell you what, Joseph, though, I completely reject that. That line of thinking. I don't reject you, my brother, but I reject that line of thinking. You have to understand where Luke was coming from. At that time, when he decided not to kill his father, they were in the end game. I mean, they were in the end game. And the genocides, the destruction, the murder, the horrible stuff being done across the galaxy by Vader and his Emperor was kind of already done, right? It was kind of already done. Now, fast forward decades later. Luke is now sensing in his nephew that same power, and on top of that same power, that same darkness. He's sensing that power and that darkness, and the last time that level of power with that degree of darkness was allowed to go unchecked, genocide was created across the galaxy. Millions, billions, maybe trillions of people in entire worlds enslaved, murdered, Alderaan destroyed. I mean, the last time he saw that go unchecked, It led to the death of not a person, not a family, not a neighborhood, not a city, not a state, not a country, not a planet, but a galaxy of people enslaved and butchered. That's what he saw happen. To think that a guy in Luke's position, who has seen with his own eyes what happened before, and now sensing that same thing in his nephew, if you don't think for a moment the thought would cross his head that to protect the universe, I may need to kill this kid. If you don't think that's something that a defender of the universe wouldn't consider and think about for a moment, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you if you're not willing to accept that that's something that somebody who has seen it happen before. It's like going back in time. Do you kill a baby Hitler? Do you kill a baby Hitler? If you can go back in time and you see a little Hitler, listen, you're lying if you don't at least acknowledge that it's something that would go through your head. If you don't at least acknowledge that it's a thought that would go through your head, then I think you're lying. Of course it is. And Luke thought about it. Now, ultimately, he relented and realized, no, I'm not going to do it. The exact same thing that happened with him and his father. He was about to kill his own father too, thought better of it, decided not to do it. That's completely consistent with what he did with Kylo Ren, with Ben. He thought about it, thinking that the lives of trillions could be at stake here, and he thought about it and relented. That's exactly what he did before. It's exactly what he did before. It was 100% consistent with the character. It was 100% consistent with the character. Now, just earlier in this video, you know I've got some issues with The Last Jedi. I've already talked about a couple things I had big problems with, but to me, the way they handled Luke was gutsy, out of the box, and 100% consistent with the character of Luke Skywalker. 100% consistent with him. So I'll stand by that, Joseph. I totally do. But hey, man, there are a lot of other people who have the same train of thought that you have, so you're in good company. And that's one of the great things about movies. We can have different points of views on what characters do or don't do and what happens, and we can have these discussions. So I'm glad you shared your thoughts, man. All right. Stubble McShave writes, I watched Stan and Ollie again. It's so good. You know, I still haven't gotten around to Stan and Ollie. And I've been excited about it ever since I saw the trailer. I just never got around to it. I got to make some time and make sure I watch that, Stubble. Joseph Ziegler writes, also, thanks for taking time to answer genuinely. Oh, no problem, man. And I appreciate you sharing your point of view, even when they're not the same points of view as me. It's the more interesting discussions when we don't have the same points of view. Anyway, so thank you for sharing yours, man. Tamello writes, hi, my name, you're Heisenberg. You're goddamn right I am. God, I love that show. Not one of my... People get mad at me when I say it's not... That Breaking Bad isn't one of my top 10 favorite shows. Sorry, let me rephrase. It isn't my top 10. It's not my top 5. People get mad at me for that. It's like, sorry, I think it's great, but it's not in my top 5. But anyway, it is a damn great show. I do miss it. Kyler Pajor writes, hey, John, how do you foresee Warner Brothers trying to create another Justice League movie? Do you think they will start from scratch or try to include Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, and Henry Cavill? Personally, I don't think he's done. I do personally think he's done, but I hope he's not because he's my all-time favorite Superman. Let's see what happens. Honestly, right now, I don't even think they're thinking about it. I don't even think they're even considering what they're going to do with Justice League next. Now, I do think at some point, so I've been going back and forth with my wife. So I gotta, you guys, you know, right? When the wife is texting, you gotta answer. I think right now, Warner Brothers' laser sharp focus is on their standalone individual films, and they're just trying to right the ship. I think right now they're going to let that take on a life of its own, and I do believe they're eventually going to get to some team-ups and maybe another Justice League movie down the road. But Warner Brothers right now has been pretty clear. We're not even thinking about that right now. Right now we are focused on making quality, crowd-pleasing, successful, standalone individual films. That's our priority right now. And with the success they're having, it's hard to criticize them for that. It's working for them. So I think we're years away from them even deciding about what the best way is to approach that. I'm sure they're going to get to it. I just don't think they even have a thought about how they're going to do it quite yet. But we'll see as we get a little bit closer. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the companion video. We are now all caught up. Thank you to all of you guys who sent in questions, not only because you gave us some great topics to talk about, but also because you were supporting the channel. And guys, I really appreciate you supporting the channel. It's the reason I'm able to do it. It's the reason I'm able to have guys like Robert Meyer Burnett. It's the reason why I'm able to have somebody like an Ashley Whalen, have somebody like a fact checker Jonathan, have a guy doing graphics like Ray, is because you guys support the channel. And I appreciate that deeply. So thank you for that, guys. All right, don't forget the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow. Make sure you come and join us for that. That'll do it for us for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name is John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.